I've been following the StarCraft 2 Pro scene since 2011 and I've kept wondering about some weird things about the StarCraft 2 community, which of course I've been part of. While I think we have one of the best gaming communities in the world, it's always strange to see so many negative takes about the game and just opinions that harm StarCraft 2. And today I wanna bring up some of those things in this video. First of all, why is it even important? Well, any discussion we have on the internet is a reference and a somewhat reliable source for many outsiders who might want to join the StarCraft 2 community and start playing. And many people read Reddit, watch YouTube content before actually embarking on a journey in the new game. And I have come to a conclusion that StarCraft 2 community creates a lot of negative myths about StarCraft 2. So in this video, I'll be debunking some of them from my point of view. If you don't trust my gaming experience, here is my career summary, so I guess I have some credibility. So myth number 1 is StarCraft 2 is a dead game. This is something I've been hearing since 2012, and this is one of the myths that's kinda true. The problem though is what people mean by saying dead game. The funniest thing is that you can hear the same take about Dota 2 or Counter-Strike, while both games have the numbers that StarCraft 2 would be very jealous of. The term dead game is really unclear, because there are different kinds of dead games. To give you an example, this is what I would call a dead game. The numbers are so small, you won't find the match online. This is another example. You can find the match and there is some stuff happening every day, but the player base is very limited and you'll have a hard time learning the game because it consists mostly of very experienced players. And then we have Company of Heroes 2. The player base is almost 6 times higher than in Red Alert 3, so is it alive then? Age of Empires 4 has almost tripled the numbers of Company of Heroes, but people are still gossiping about the game crawling on its last leg. Now the funny thing is, StarCraft 2 has way more players than all these games combined. It's still much less than Dota 2, but it's a lot to be comfortable playing it. Of course it also depends on the server. European server has more players than NA and Korea, but I would say StarCraft 2 anyway has a decent chunk of active players on all levels. So when people say dead game, they exaggerate quite a lot. Is StarCraft 2 past its glory days? Certainly. Is it dead? Absolutely not. It even gets updates with maps and patches, and the amount of various content on Twitch and YouTube, as well as tournaments, is much higher than in any other RTS game. So it might not be the most popular game in the world, but it's certainly still relevant and will be for many more years in the future. Myth number 2 is StarCraft 2 is incredibly difficult. And while I kinda agree that StarCraft 2 is one of the most difficult games in the world, especially when it comes to competitive multiplayer, I would say it's a bit of a complicated topic. On a high level, Grandmaster League is just exhausting. You'll sweat and your hands won't say thank you in the long run. But if you take a look at everything else that StarCraft 2 can offer, it's actually quite enjoyable. See, StarCraft 2 is not only about grinding on ladder. You can effortlessly play co-op, custom maps, and not to mention the amazing campaigns this game has. You also don't need to be a Master League player to enjoy esports and watch that on different channels. There are so many things you can do to this game without being a try-hard player, but the discourse around StarCraft 2 puts a big emphasis on the competitive side only, while there are thousands of players who derive fun experiences from different things within the same game. Take this channel as an example. This content is all about single-player stuff, and there is a huge fan base that adores that. When the game is portrayed only as an ultimate testing ground for the best mechanical players on the planet, it's a bit repulsive for thousands of casual players. Many people are simply afraid of trying StarCraft 2 when they hear about all those stories featuring 300 APM, when in fact it's far from reality for the vast majority of players. So it would be a cool thing to highlight casual sides of StarCraft 2 more. And by the way, if you wanna get better and maybe reach a new MMR height, check out my Grandmaster Guide on Gaming Essays channel. Myth number 3, StarCraft 2 is the best RTS ever made. While I would agree with that personally, I always wonder how different RTS community would look like if it was less divided. I mean, it's a normal thing for most gaming communities to shit on each other, but only in the StarCraft 2 community I see such an elitism and look-down attitude that applies to most other games, including the RTS genre. I honestly think that StarCraft is the most difficult game and it has a ton of cool features about it, but at the same time, there is a lot of great things about many other games as well, mechanics and skill tests that are just not found in StarCraft 2. For example, Age of Empires 4 has a much more difficult economy management with 4 types of resources to handle. Company of Heroes has a cover and veterancy mechanic that makes the battlefield much more alive and important in combat. The list goes on, but my point here is similar to the previous one. StarCraft 2 being the best doesn't mean it overshadows other games in every single aspect. It also doesn't mean that players from other games cannot enjoy StarCraft 2 and be successful in it. StarCraft has a big room for casual players as well. Myth number 4, smurfing and cheating problem that exists in StarCraft 2. I keep seeing the smurfing problem on Reddit all the time, and people keep discussing how it ruins the gaming experience. But to tell the truth, every competitive game with free-to-play access has the smurfing problem to some extent. It's not the problem of StarCraft 2 specifically, rather it's the problem of all free-to-play games. I can't really speak about it because I've been in Grandmaster League for the past 8 years and there's no such thing as smurfing in Grandmaster League, or it's just irrelevant, right? But I kind of feel that this problem could be just a bit exaggerated by people who encountered this issue. It's, in my opinion, not that rampant and it doesn't happen in every second game. And the same is true for cheating. Personally, in my gaming career, I have only encountered one cheater in 10,000 games. I would say it's a good ratio, but with this take, I might be totally wrong. If so, write your experience on the ladder in the comment section. Do you face smurfs often? And cheaters? It would be really interesting to hear you all out. Myth number 5, balance is broken. I've seen so many complaints about balance, and it's no longer really surprises me. If you played other RTS games or just competitive games in general, you are probably aware that every such game has a lot of balance issues, and to tell the truth, from my experience, StarCraft 2 is certainly not the worst of them. There were some periods when the balance was terrible, but it was a long time ago, and by the way, we covered that in our 2 stories that you can check out. Now I would say it's in a relatively okay state. It's very difficult to judge the balance because we always have bias towards our own race. It's just like a reverse patriotism. My Zerg race is the worst and weakest amongst all of them. Why? Because I'm not the best player yet. Sometimes it's also difficult to judge the balance because it also depends on the players, map pool and other factors. To give you a quick example, WCS Global Finals 2012 were won by Protoss players, despite the Zerg race being somewhat imba. There are many more examples of that which you can find in any given year of StarCraft 2 esports history. If you just take out several from the player base, you'll probably see drastically different results. And sometimes one great man can change history, and it applies to StarCraft 2 as well. Anyhow, I don't think StarCraft 2 will ever find the perfect state of balance. Somebody will always be dissatisfied. Somebody will always complain. And it's also incredibly difficult to balance a game with 3 absolutely unique races. Still, StarCraft 2 does a better job than some other RTS games, which have a much more similar design between factions. It's just important to acknowledge balance issues, but not overstating them, because it portrays the game in a very negative light, while in reality most of the balance issues don't even affect players below Master League. It's just, again, too over-exaggerated. This is all for today. What do you think about all these things we just talked about? Share your opinion in the comments and check out our story about balance patches in StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2. Have a nice day and see you next time.